All right, so welcome to Well Talk. I'm here with my boy Nick Murray. I'm super excited to have him on here. Thank you, Nick, so much for coming on. And actually, is it Nick or Nicholas? What do you go by? I just want to make
I
sure.
don't have a preference, man. How about you, Matt or Matthew?
Same, man. I don't have a preference either. Usually people just kind of go straight to Matt, so Matt works too. But yeah,
Cool.
so, yeah, man. Well, first of all, thanks so much for coming on here and taking the time to not only be on here to share your story, but highlight different things for listeners to really do to help themselves. I think there's so much that you're doing right now that I definitely want you to talk about and just your nonprofit and even hear your story and stuff. There's so much that I want you to highlight. So, dude, welcome to the show and just go ahead and introduce yourself, what you're about, and share a little bit about your business and what you do.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks again for having me, man.
Of course.
I love making these connections with people that are in this healing world, for lack of
Yeah.
better words, that are, trying to help people, lift others. We really connect with people like that. We love everything you do. So thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to give you a short version of my story. I don't want to bore your listeners, but I've
No, it's all good.
I had many years of pretty difficult struggle with depression, starting at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
It progressed, and as I got older, teen years, it progressed to the point where I was pretty sick,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word. Um, I had several suicide attempts. I was put in psychiatric hospitals for extended periods of time. Um, and I dealt with a lot of, I think my story is similar to a lot of people that have struggled with depression and anxiety and self-esteem issues, where I had some years where I tried to self-medicate. And,
Mm.
I thought that drugs initially feel like the answer to all your problems. Like it kind of numbs that pain and takes the edge off. But for somebody like me that was really trying to escape how I was feeling, it progressed into addiction. And then I ended up in legal trouble and
Mm.
in court-ordered drug rehabs. I spent some short stints in jail. And when that happens, when you get stuck in the legal system, then you get drug tested and you have to go back to being sober.
Mm-hmm.
My mental health problems immediately came back and,
Mm.
stronger than ever. So then I ended up back in this pattern of getting really depressed and not functioning well, and then back in psychiatric hospitals and, being forced into therapy and, I was put on a lot of medications. And
Okay.
so that became like this. Yeah, that was my life. That was my regular life. And really, I tell people this all the time, but my solution at that age, conventional therapy wasn't something that worked for me. At,
For
at my
sure.
age now, I go to therapy now, and it's great. It's been a huge benefit
Yeah.
because I was, able to be vulnerable in that space and really work on myself. But really, what helped me when I was younger was working out, and
Mm.
that was the beginning of my healing journey, I guess we'll call it. I actually
Yeah.
don't like that word that much. I don't like when everybody always says it. I say it all the time, but I think when we say healing, it like I associate that with something that's broken. And I
For
don't think
sure.
we're broken. So I think
Mm.
I like calling it growing.
Mm.
I grew from a place where I was very stuck in my head and very caught up in a place that I was depressed and honestly feeling sorry for myself and not able to get out of. And
Mm.
so working out became this bridge to all these different things that have, and I'm still adding to it. A
Yeah.
few years ago, if you asked me about meditation or some of the more, you know, woo-woo kind of hippie stuff, I would have been like, no, not for me. And then
Yeah.
I started, practicing some of this meditation and yoga and breath work.
Mm.
And it had incredible effects. And I felt bad that I thought it was a silly thing. There's all these holistic approaches that I've been exposed to with a nonprofit that I highly recommend to people and I think are incredible. And
Yeah.
we only get to those places by trying out new things and getting out of that comfort zone. And that's really, really in a nutshell what led to me starting this nonprofit and
Yeah.
connecting with all these awesome people.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor and tell me what your nonprofit is called?
It's called Mind Muscle Pro.
For sure.
Mind,
Yeah.
muscle, and pro. And
Yeah.
the reason being, well, one of the reasons is that that domain was available. I mean,
Yeah.
we wanted something that associated mind, body, and soul, really. And
Got you. Yeah.
so it became that. I actually did not like the name initially. I didn't think it would take off in the way it did. And
Mm.
now I've grown to love it. It's like it's meant to be. But initially, I'm like, this sounds weird. Like people are going to think we're a weird gym or something. And
You know what? It caught my attention as soon as I saw it on social media. So I think that's a really cool, catchy Mind Muscle Pro. Just the name itself and what you're trying to accomplish. I totally hear that where you said you wanted to get something that stood out, but then at the same time, there's all those things in the background where the domain names and is this taken, is that taken? So it sounds like it worked out though, and now you got this flourishing nonprofit where can you kind of tell me I'm aware of what you're doing, but like for listeners too, like what you all do and just the purpose, because I love your story that not only you shared, and I know there's so much more obviously that you didn't go into detail about, but in terms of just what is happening with like you now and where you've come from. I mean, I just want to highlight the resiliency that it takes to get to this point. And so for you and what you're doing now, yeah, what are you guys, what's the vision? What's the purpose? What is Mind Muscle Pro about?
I mean, it started as one thing and has evolved, I think is the right word, because initially the whole mission was to introduce people to alternative methods to combat mental health issues. And
Mm,
because, I found something that though it should be, one of the first steps we take when we're feeling down or we're having low self-esteem, exercise is not something that everybody associates with mental health. I mean,
yeah,
when we go to a doctor and we say we're feeling depressed, the first thing they should do is try to get us moving. And
yeah, for
it's
sure.
proven over and over.
Hmm.
So initially, our mission was to introduce people to some of that. Not just weightlifting and jogging, but yoga and mixed martial arts. And so we
Mm,
did that by interviewing businesses and people that promote that kind of stuff. Like initially, I was going to boxing gyms, yoga
okay.
studios, MMA gyms, and um, but then it really evolved into a more holistic approach too, because we've done healing with horses, we've done cranial
Mm,
sacral therapy, breath work. Art, music. We've interviewed so many artists and musicians that have found this. So it went from being kind of a mental, physical thing to
uh-huh.
all encompassing because
Yeah.
we're all different. We all have different struggles. And frankly, not just like for me when I was younger, conventional therapy wasn't the answer.
Right.
you know, the gym is not everybody's answer. As much
Hmm.
as I want to drag everybody into the gym and say, dude, because I get real excited when a buddy or a friend or somebody that we've connected with My Muscle Pro is like, can I come to the gym with you? Yes. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about diet and exercise. I'll talk about it all day. But
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is we're different, and some people find that relief by picking up a paintbrush, and some people by picking
Mm.
up a guitar. So, we do that, and we've done that all over the country, and we'll continue to do that, where we interview people and really show what they're doing. So, the right people can connect and say, you know what, maybe this will work for me. Maybe if I go
Mm.
do yoga with goats, I'm
Yeah.
going to have a great time, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we also offer free virtual classes. I
Cool.
I do a personal training class once a week,
Okay.
that is pretty basic working out. People have to have resistance bands or small light weights, or
Uh-huh.
free weights rather. I have a men's group that meets on Monday that it's just guys discussing issues in their life. It goes in all different directions. We talk about dating, we talk about fitness, we talk about struggles with jobs or money. It's just kind of an
Okay.
open forum for people to, sometimes we just all get in there and complain about our lives and vent.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels good sometimes to just be around some other guys and experience that. Cheyenne has a women's group, and we've had volunteers over the years too that have led yoga classes. We're always looking for new volunteers that will
Okay.
donate some time to lead some of these classes.
Yeah.
And now what we're gravitating into is work in the community, where we're going to be doing workshops for children from grade school or elementary all the way up through high school that are
Nice.
mental health workshops. We're going to do
Yeah.
some workshops with firefighters and police officers and first responders that are obviously um, they're catered to whatever age group or people that we're using, and or I'm sorry, presenting for, which is super exciting for me because a lot of these people are people that we've met. The reason that we're focused on these groups, like we've had police officers that we've interviewed, and they
Mm.
blow our minds, man. Honestly,
Yeah.
we're like, with the experiences they have and
Yeah.
the things they have to sit with. So, yeah, man, we're doing, and we have a podcast as well, and we'd love to have you on it. I don't
For
host
sure,
it.
man. No, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, we have an amazing host, Lacey, that has volunteered so much time, and she's incredible because her and her husband, who have been through to a lot of our events with us and done so much with us, are very busy. They run a huge business, but they volunteer time with us, and she's an amazing host on our podcast. Um, so we do a little bit of everything, man, and we're always kind
That's
of
so
adding
cool.
in more. So it's been a lot of fun, man. It's
Yeah.
financially it's been a hemorrhage, but we feel like if you put good into the world and we're enjoying doing it, the money will come if it's supposed to. We've got a little bit of grant money here and there. We've done some fundraisers that were successful, but ultimately the goal is to help people, man. And if money comes, great. And if it doesn't, we'll do this till the day we die because we believe in it. And we
Mm.
believe that part of being a human is lifting others. I think that we should all
Yeah.
feel some obligation to that in the world. It's not just about accumulating wealth or
Yeah.
getting ahead. It's about connecting with other human beings, and especially those that need our help, and lifting them when they're in darkness.
For sure. There's so much there too that I want to unpack because I love that you all are tapping into just all kinds of different ways to help people, individuals, help people help themselves, and even the podcast you mentioned too, which by the way, can you just tell listeners what the pod is? It Mind Muscle Pro podcast or is it
Yeah, it's called the Mind Muscle Pro podcast. It's
okay?
on, we have it on YouTube. Spotify and what's the other one? Apple Podcast? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Apple. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
So yeah, it's the Mind Muscle Pro podcast. It's pretty easy to find. It's got our logo on it, and there's a link in our bio of our social media as well.
okay, cool. So, I mean, anybody looking for support in so many different ways, not just, mental health, but like physical health. Because I think so many people forget the two. There's a strong correlation. Like if you're not physically healthy mentally, you're not going to be mentally healthy. And then the same with, the mental health and impacting the physical health. And
100%,
yeah,
100%.
and then just the vision that you're sharing. I mean, I love it, man. That's so cool. If more people would have this vision, right, and just really extend a helping hand to people and say like, hey, how can we come together and actually assist each other? The men's support group you talk about, where people just come and guys are just there talking about stuff like real life struggles and supporting each other. I mean, the gym to me, like, I've always been somebody who goes to the gym, tries to do my part, and actually, stay somewhat in shape. And I mean, it does wonders for me. I'm a therapist. There's things I have to do to help myself with self-care too. So the gym has always been something that I've clicked with. But there's also stuff like that you mentioned that yeah, so many people have different styles of what they want to do, and not it's not a one size fits all. And I love the approach you're going with. And I remember even reading it's you in your statement, your bio, talking about you help everyone find their gym. Like, what is your gym for you? Dude, I love that, man, because you found that the gym makes and helps you, and then it's like, hey, what would be your gym to somebody else? And that right there, when people hear that, I know that they probably it sits and it hits where it's like, oh, I get it. And like, the movement part, so important, right? I mean, even just getting out for a walk, getting some fresh air and doing like a light walk, there's so much research saying that movement is so important. And dude, I'm really just like impacted by what you guys are doing, and I love the vision. I love where you're going with it. So that's so awesome, man. I mean, what would you say to somebody who is even considering figuring out, like, hey, I want to start something like that? Like, what do they do? What's the first thing they should do? Like,
With regards to like starting a nonprofit or a movement of sorts, you mean?
yeah. Hmm.
I'll tell you, well, I'm not trying to promote once again, but we
No,
also
that's yeah. Yeah,
we
go
have
ahead.
a class every other Sunday that's called
Okay.
Dream Chasers that Cheyenne and I lead. All our
Okay.
classes are free too.
Nice.
And it's just for people to come in and talk about what they want to do with their lives and what their dreams are and get
Mm.
supported and encouraged.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the best advice I got when I started, because I started connecting with people that were doing different things, whether they had their own business or, some nonprofits, or they were, trying to make it in the music industry or whatever.
Mm.
The best advice I got was that you can't expect things to happen overnight, and to keep the core, the vision at its core in the
Mm.
forefront. So not to lose sight of what you're trying to do. Like we get
Yeah.
caught up in, social media views or,
Right.
people patting us on the back. And a lot of that is ego. That has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the core mission. And look, we've been guilty of it before where we're just like, we're working so hard and,
Hmm.
you need that encouragement sometimes, but it has to stick with that belief in what you're doing and
Yeah.
not be about the other things, or there's no way you're ever going to be happy. Social media is a good example because
True.
People build their social media and they get 10,000 views on their reels or whatever.
Hmm.
Those same people will get to the point where they're not happy unless they get 10,000 views. I mean, there's
Hmm.
people that get 1 million views on their videos and they're
Yeah.
like, well, I wanted 2 million, but that's not what it's
Yeah.
about. And I
That's
think
good.
if you believe in something, the first step is just going out and doing some stuff, and it's going to be ugly. If you go to the beginning of our like Instagram page,
Mm.
I used to do 25-minute interviews and record the whole thing on, it wasn't a podcast. It was me in like MMA gyms with terrible sound and lighting.
Yeah.
And no one was watching those, man. Like no
Mm.
one was, my mom maybe, but things aren't going to be perfect. And I
Yeah.
think that I have some problem with perfectionism, and I had to get over that. I had to
Mm.
realize that what I was trying to build was going to take time and that it wasn't going
Yeah.
to be perfect. And sometimes it was going to suck. And some days still, Cheyenne and I wake up and we're like, we're exhausted because
Mm.
we have full-time jobs and we're like, we're not getting anywhere. And
Mm.
if you stay on that path, God will give you little, glimmers. Like he'll
Yeah.
say, he'll remind you that your mission is what you're supposed to be doing. Like
Yeah.
we'll feel like giving up sometimes, and then somebody will message us and say, you know what, your class helped me so much.
Mm.
And it's always that kind of stuff too. It's not like, oh, a reel did real well. That feels good for about 2 seconds. You get a little dump of happiness that goes away immediately. But when people reach out, then we're like, okay, we're doing something that's important here, that's meaningful and is helping people. So, you know, figure out what you're passionate about
Mm.
and realize that it's not going to happen overnight. But if you stay true to that passion, you will do amazing things. I don't have
For
special
sure.
abilities. Dude, I'm not somebody that is good at, and this isn't me knocking myself, but I'm pretty average when it comes to a lot of things. I'm not some phenomenal athlete or gifted musician but I had a belief in something and I kept working at it and it has grown and become something beautiful.
Mm.
And it's only because I was resilient, I was passionate and I was persistent and it became something. And everybody has that ability,
Yeah.
that ability to be persistent and not give up. So eh, anybody, really.
Definitely. And I think that that is going to speak to a lot of people. And the word that comes to mind is like consistency, like being
Mhm.
consistent. And you mentioned about like the hard work. Man, yeah, working a full-time job and then having this on top of it and trying to like make that work. That's a whole other level of the grind and hustling and actually like putting in work, right? And I tell people this all the time. It's like a lot of life is doing stuff that we don't feel like doing. It's like I don't feel like getting up early to go do this or to go to work but I got to do it cuz what? I have a responsibility or going to the gym. Sometimes maybe people don't feel like going and actually getting out and doing something physical, but you got to get out and challenge yourself, right? And find what's going to motivate you to get out there. And you saying like just finding that, I think my question to you too is, man, when you've gone through so much and you've been in places where there was just maybe no hope and having to dig deep and figure out like, all right, how am I going to overcome or get through this? What was that inside of you that like you can say, man, this is what just it changed everything?
Um, Honestly, there are two things, and this is probably not an answer that a lot of people would give, but it's just honest.
For sure.
One of the ways that I got out of being in really dark places was I took some accountability for where my life was and the
Mm,
decisions I made. And that's very hard to do because
yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people that had deep struggles with depression,
Mm,
and all of them, I think, would admit this on some level, that you get very stuck in a place where you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself, and you get
mm,
comfortable with that place where you're like, oh, woe is me, and my life is a tragedy. And
mm,
honestly, you have to break that cycle, and
mm.
you have to force yourself to just say, you know what, this is my life. It
Mm,
doesn't mean that God hates me or that I've just been dealt a bad hand.
mm.
It means that I'm in a difficult place right now, and the only way to get out of it is to take some responsibility and move. And for me,
Wow.
movement was what got me out of it. I mean, it was that
Mm,
simple. And it's
yeah,
different for everybody, like we've discussed. The
for
other
sure.
thing, honestly, was anger. I
Mm,
was very, very mad at circumstances in my life.
mm,
I dealt with a lot of there was a lot of hurt when
mm.
I started going into psychiatric hospitals when I was really young. People
Wow.
don't, even people that are older don't
Mm,
really always understand that world. And
yeah,
being somebody that was like still in teen years, I
yeah.
dealt with a lot of people that, you know, made fun of me
Mm,
or, it was like that guy's crazy or whatever. And that hurt really bad.
wow.
And it caused a lot of anger. And there was some level of, I'll show you. And I went out
Mm,
and built myself a life.
mm.
It started by building myself some muscle, which
Yeah.
ultimately is the smallest thing that I've, acquired from going to the gym. But
Mm,
it evolved into, building a life for myself and also getting rid of a lot of that anger too. You have to shed it. I'm not
for
mad at
sure.
people, but I was for years. I was mad that people didn't understand
Mm,
and that people were making fun of something that they didn't understand, which is pretty common among young people. I mean, it's not
yeah.
unheard of for people to just in general, teenagers can be pretty awful. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely in that stage of some of the heartlessness that's there
yeah.
in whether it's people being intentional and just deliberately trying to make somebody feel inferior,
Yeah.
or people that are doing it out of just complete ignorance that they don't even realize how impacting somebody's just life has been, where it's they've been through so much and people don't see everything that's really going on. And I think, you know, man, Nick, I just hearing that right now just kind of hit home because I'm sitting here thinking like, look where you are, man. Like, you talked about using that anger and saying like, I'll show you, like, you guys, and you want to say this, you don't understand the full story though, right? And I think people don't get the full story. They don't get the context. And for you, I just want to give you props to say you dug deep and you were like, hold on, wait a minute. No, this isn't the end of the story. Like, you guys are okay. You don't understand. And you know what? I tell clients this a lot too. I say people, they'll say things, they'll do things, and they'll never really know the full story. But you know what? It's not about them. It's about you responding and how you're going to make your choices to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, right? And so, dude, just just hearing that inspires me. I mean, I've had my struggles with anxiety. I've had my struggles with depression as well, and it's, everybody experiences them in a different way, and it's something that I think is not, unfortunately, not talked about enough, especially within the community of males. You know, males
100%.
don't talk. Usually, they don't talk about feelings, and if they reach out, it's like that. Oh, you can't, like, you're a guy, like you can't talk about, or like, no, you're a man, you can't talk about your feelings. You can't, you know, and man, it hits home hearing you, just share that.
Well,
So
there's some old school conditioning that still exists of
yeah,
this. I mean, I, I think the funny thing is that I don't think people really know what masculinity means because
that's true.
we have this
Yeah,
weird like
yeah,
there's a lot of people that think that vulnerability and masculinity can't coexist.
mm.
Look, at the end of the day, it's funny too because I know people that kind of live in a way like men should never talk about their feelings. You're not a real man.
Yeah,
I've never had a person say that to my face, man, and they won't because they're
yeah,
that's just
yeah,
something people say, but is
yeah,
it, you know I I live my life. I feel like more of a man now that I'm actually strong enough to say what's on my mind rather than
mm.
hide. I think that there's such power in vulnerability,
Yeah,
and I don't think everybody. I hope everybody gets to that point. I mean, it's why we're
for sure.
talking about men taking their own lives at a way higher rate
Mm.
because they don't. And it's weird because there's a lot of people that will talk about the numbers and they talk about that a lot of the men that are taking their own lives. It's situational. Like they feel like they're in a spot that they can't get out of.
Yeah,
And true enough, those numbers are real. But if
mm.
those same men were speaking freely and openly and feeling okay about sharing some of that, a lot of
Yeah,
those men would be okay and be able to work through what they were going through if they
mm.
took some of that weight off of themselves and, you know, put it on put it on to the people that care about them. And
Yeah,
it's crazy though that people I don't know, man. I think we have to when people ask me what I could do, what can I do to help a guy friend? And if a
yeah,
woman or a man asks me that, I say one of the most incredible gifts you can give somebody that's a friend is to be vulnerable. And that means when dude, when I started talking about how I was feeling around my guy friends,
yeah,
it was incredible. And I'm talking about the guys that I lift weights with or
mm.
watch football with and drink beers, like
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
A lot of people are worried about it. Dude, I got closer with them and then
mm.
their walls came down and they were able to be vulnerable. So if you really want to
Yeah,
help somebody, be vulnerable
mm.
be vulnerable in front of them and watch how quickly their walls come down and they feel like they're safe to talk about things.
That's
It's
good.
really an incredible kind of thing that happens. And it's something that we should if you have a friend, a real friend, you
Yeah,
should feel comfortable talking in front of them. Otherwise,
yeah,
like, who are they really in your life? I mean, I can meet acquaintances that I can talk about nothing with anytime. I go to a bar or a game or whatever and strike up a conversation uh, of no consequence or no substance with anybody. And that's the same as like a friend that I don't talk to any. Like you can make
yeah,
those all day, every day. Having people that you can really rely on and go to and they can come to you is that's what friendship is and what we owe people that we care about in our life. We owe them that vulnerability in that and not just in relationships and friendships as well. We owe them being open and letting them feel safe being open.
for sure. That word vulnerability is so important, and I think it makes all the difference when someone is willing to be vulnerable. Nobody likes being in an uncomfortable position, or vulnerability is tough, right? And I always highlight and say it takes a extremely courageous and brave person to step out and be vulnerable,
100%.
because without being able to do that, essentially everything else gets bottled up, and it's gonna come out somewhere. It's
Mhm.
go that the sadness, the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, the grief, anything that you're dealing with emotionally, if you repress it or suppress it, it's gonna eventually come out somewhere.
Yeah, and it
And
could come out in a way that has you getting in a fight with somebody in the street,
exactly, yeah,
or
exactly,
or saying awful things to people you care about. And
yeah,
yeah, there's no way to just suppress everything your whole life. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. It will in some way surface, and a lot of times in a very unhealthy way. And I've been guilty of that before, where I've suppressed stuff and let things build,
hmm
and bitterness and resentment, and then explode. And then,
yeah,
you know, what situation have I got myself in now? The other thing I'll say about sharing your feelings that I
hmm
think is just hilarious is there's a lot of talk about, like, men are worried about being vulnerable because they, like, you'll see videos online that, like, where are all the real men at now? And, like,
yeah, yep,
real men, lead and they don't talk about their feelings.
mm,
I'll tell you something that's 100% honest. I have got way more attention from females since I've
hmm
become an open book and been vulnerable. And I have an amazing girlfriend that we travel all over together. We share the same
mm,
passion. I only have her in my life because of that vulnerability. She wouldn't have been
mm,
attracted to me
mm,
as, like, somebody that she's already had that. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many women, you might see clips on the internet of somebody that just wants some, no emotion.
yeah,
Most women appreciate it. And
yeah,
again, those things can go coexist. You can be a masculine guy
yeah,
and also be vulnerable. They can
yeah,
coexist. And I don't know
yeah,
why people act like they can't.
yeah,
I was on the couch the other night with my girl, and we were watching this documentary,
mm,
and there was a scene where the police had to tell these kids that their mother was dead.
mm,
And we were, like, weeping. It was such a powerful scene, and it was like you could
mm,
feel it through your body watching these
mm,
kids hear that their mom was gone.
mm,
And I remember for a split second, I was crying, and I was my girl was crying. And I was like, for a second, there was that old, like, conditioning of, like, oh God, you can't cry in front of your girl. Do you think she
yeah,
looked over and was like, God, I gotta find a real man. Look at this. She fucking hugged me because
yeah,
it's
wow,
it's a beautiful thing to be able to share your emotions with people. This
yeah,
isn't this business of no feelings is manly is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'll tell anybody
yeah,
that. I hate when and no one will say that to your face either. There's not one dude that has ever come up to me and been like, "You're not masculine." Okay, okay.
yeah,
Please, somebody do that at some point. It'd be a
yeah,
good day if somebody came up and said that.
for sure. No, that's so true. And man, exactly. This whole idea of like, well, I don't feel, or I don't have emotions, or I can't have those types of emotions because, whatever it is, man, to not feel is to not live. Like we all feel, we all have emotions. And, the vulnerability part too. I mean, even looking at my life, I've got a 3-year-old son. I have a wife of almost 5 years. And dude, if I don't communicate and talk with my wife and share, like, look, this is what's going on, and there's, yeah, maybe I'm struggling here, or I'm feeling this way, there's no relationship there. And so there has to be communication. And so fellas out there that, yeah, maybe you were taught that you just hold everything in. And of course we don't just trauma dump on people, but but at the same time there's a balance there of saying like, yeah, it's okay to say, hey, I am kind of struggling, or I am hurting, or like you said, you just had a moment with your girl where you're watching a documentary and this impacting scene came on and you guys were crying together, and like, yeah, to experience emotions with each other, that is living.
Hmm.
That's living, right? And so, man, I love that you can advocate for this and that you're out there representing and really just pushing this, because so many people need to hear it. I think just, from all different types of backgrounds, people who maybe have struggled, maybe who have experienced loss, maybe people that are still struggling right now, and I want to just ask this question, because I also want to respect your time, but I do want to ask, if you had to give a word of encouragement to anybody, maybe somebody who's hurting, maybe somebody who they feel like there's no hope left, or they've got nothing, nobody. I mean, what would you say? What would you give them for just even encouraging word or anything that comes to mind?
That's always a difficult question because there are things that I believe are very true, but it sounds cliche. Like there's all these things that we're supposed to say, like don't
Mm-hmm.
give up, and your life
Yeah,
has value,
yeah,
and you're loved, and you have a purpose. They sound like what you're supposed to say, but they're also true. Like they're,
mm-hmm.
you know, I think from our own experience, I'm so grateful that I stuck around because my life's hard, just like everybody else's. I have difficult days, difficult weeks, but I have such a beautiful life, and I never would have, in my darkest times, I never would have believed that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it has to be to keep going. And
Mm-hmm.
I know those words might sound, not super powerful,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe if you can keep pushing another day, there
Mm-hmm.
is this light that is gonna, I for me it took years, honestly, and it took years of feeling hopeless, but there was a light at the end of that tunnel, and I believe that there's a light for every person in this world if they keep fighting, and hopefully, we can help some of those people in even a small way. I mean, I think we're obligated. Everybody struggles. I think
For
that's the
sure.
other thing we're obligated to do in life is to, especially those of us who have struggled, is
Mm-hmm.
is to when we make it through that darkness, is to try to help pull some people out of that as well,
Mm-hmm.
that have found themselves in those places. I mean, that's what you do for a living. You help
Yeah,
people feel good, and it's dope, man. And
yeah,
I know you know the struggle of working hard on something that you have a regular job, and
yeah,
and I want to
yeah.
say that to you too, that we really appreciate what you do, and
Thanks, man.
we're big fans of people that are pushing some good out into the world, because I think the world needs it right now a whole
Yeah,
lot. So thank you for what
definitely.
you do.
I appreciate that. I think that just, it really hits home, because yeah, the going the extra mile part is hard when you're doing after hours, you're doing long nights, long weekends, right? And you just really want to just be like, I want to sit down and do nothing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but when it comes to the type of work that we're doing, I say we're in the business of saving lives and really changing lives to help people, and so I appreciate that, and I think for you all too, it's just It's so awesome to see that somebody that's in a completely different state, we can connect and chop it up and really just create a message out there that so many people need to hear. I think this is a game changer. And man, there's so many more things that I want to talk about and ask about, but I know, again, like I said, I want to respect your time. Maybe we have to run it back, dude. We might have to run it back if you have some time too. So yeah.
Always, man. I mean, it's important for everybody to talk about these issues, man. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important for guys to be talking about it, man. And we'll continue to do that. We're working on a film now, so we'll be all over the country again. So
Oh, nice.
let's make something happen for sure, man.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm gonna just say, everybody who's listened in, follow Mind Muscle Pro on Instagram. You got YouTube, you got Spotify, you got Apple Music, podcasting, all those things. This is a game changer. You all got to follow them if you're not already. And really, Nick, I appreciate you being on. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'm super glad to not only have you, but have listeners listen to what you have to say, and also really, I think they're going to be really impacted by what you all are doing.
I appreciate you, man.